Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone, welcome. This is our next presentation in the series of permanent values. The title is Death and the Life in the Hereafter. And the books for as reference, I have noted them at the bottom. The outline of the presentation is introduction. I'll look into two concepts of life very briefly. Why do we need to know about the hereafter? This is a question comes to our mind that should I know about it while I'm living this life? Some verses on various aspects, the question of human death, sharing some verses, steps towards acquiring certainty of the hereafter. Is immortality forever? Consciousness, sleep, and death, evidence for the hereafter. What do we know about the life of the hereafter? And how to remain creative till the end of our physical life. And finally, conclusions. You will realize that there are a number of slides which I have to go through. So please be patient. First, there are two concepts of human life. First is that man is defined by his physical body, which has reached its existing form according to the process of evolution, starting from the first life cell. This is a machinery which remains active under physical laws, and when this stops functioning, then it is the end of man. This is called the materialistic concept of life, according to which there remains no difference between a human being and an animal. This is the general scientific view that there is no one guiding this process, because this is a convenient concept or a belief that the life ends with death, and we know about it. Most of the human beings follow this kind of belief system. Second concept of life is that when life reached the form of a human being, at that time, such an entity was added which was neither present within him previously, nor it was the creation of the physical laws. Allah has called it Ruhana, i.e. divine energy, that is the divine energy from his side. This is called the human self or ego. Because of this, man has choice and intent and becomes responsible for his deeds. Being responsible means that every act of his, even his thoughts and intent, has an impact on his self. With death, the human body disintegrates, but the human self does not disappear. It also goes forward. This is called the life in the hereafter or the next life. But the point to note over here is that no one talks about this divine energy which gives us I and our consciousness and the choice and intent. And unless we know that, we will never be able to understand the law or the value of hereafter and its relation with our present life. So this, we should keep it in mind, that the Quran is the only book which very precisely and accurately, factually tells us from where we get our I and our consciousness and our attributes of choice and intent. Now, there are two quotes which I've taken from the book on the life in the hereafter. What does the Quran say? This life is a word of deeds in which man has been left with various potentials so that he who wishes can go forward and he who wishes can remain behind. But its beginning will be from our present life. Fortunate are those who view this opportunity as invaluable and begin laying the foundation of their Jannat palace brick by brick through the hands of their righteous deeds, without hesitation or delay, as this opportunity will never recur. And they should never overlook this fact that the life of the hereafter will only be successful for the one whose life of this world is based on righteous conduct. And the second is also from the same book. It is said about the inhabitants of Jannah, for them will be all kinds of opportunities and prosperities, eminence and elation, and rising ever higher by progressing stage by stage. As they progress through various evolutionary stages, their state of development will be ever increasing in elevation. Therefore, the life of Jannah is not one of inertia and suspension. We should just keep this in mind, please. It is itself a dynamic arena of activity. That is, there's no stagnation in the next life. with this difference that in the life of this world, which is in bracket of hell, if it is not based on these values, a man's energies and abilities are spent obtaining sustenance for the physical body. In the life of Jannah, man will be completely free from this aspect. Therefore, he will direct all his abilities for further enhancement of this self. So this is important for us to be conscious of it, that this body, which restricts a lot of our activity in this life, will not be hindering our progress in the next life. And I've noted the reference for these two quotes. Now, the next question which comes to our mind is, why should we know more about the life of the hereafter? Is this not enough that we know we are going to die and there will be some form of hereafter? Fine, we have lived with it so far. Let us look at slightly additional points here. Human beings work with greater conviction and higher motivation when armed with more details about any issue of life. The less we know, the less we will be convinced to make full efforts. We have seen that the developments in the field of science has opened up how many fields, how many vistas where man has made so much progress. If there exists many details in the Quran, directly and indirectly, then it will be unfair not to find these out and share with mankind at large. So it is important here that Allama Pervez has done extensive research and produced all the work. And by reading that work, if we explore and more information comes before us, then we have a duty to share it with everyone else, particularly the issues which create uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty around the concept of death and the life of the hereafter. The lack of any information about the hereafter creates uncertainty. The Quran throughout emphasizes on certainty and evidence. So the Quran clearly says, no khawf, no huzn when you follow Allah's book. When Quran says that when you follow this book. It is our task to delve deep into this and to find the answers to the questions arising in our mind within ourselves. So if the questions have been answered, and we will look at the verses where we will get this indication, then it is our duty to go deep into it and dig them out and share them with everyone. The human vision keeps increasing as the expanse of our consciousness expands through Iman and Amal Saleh. Very important. There is no upper limit to this process of developing ourselves to a higher stage of existence in this life. At the level of the self, this life is one continuity, and the hereafter is essentially an extension of this life. We need to keep exploring it as much as possible individually as well as collectively. Nowhere has the Quran forbidden us to think about the hereafter and leave it aside as an unknown entity. I put a question mark here so that we can even discuss it. But my own view is there is a lot more about the hereafter which we still have to discover. The life in the hereafter of ourself, which is our I, commences exactly from the state in which it is at the time of death of the body. We can at least find out the best state in which that self should be before it says goodbye to this body, i.e. by knowing in detail the requirements of the life of the hereafter. So I thought I'll define the minimum threshold level of our understanding that we know that the state in which our self has developed, or to extent it has developed, that is exactly the state in which we will be awakened in the next life. Now let us look at the next point is everything about the human guidance covered in the Quran? And this is an important point which we have to understand. First is, this is a verse from Surah Ma'idah, which says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, la tasalu an ashiya'a in tubdalakum tasukum. Wa in tasalu anha hina yunazzalul Quranu tubdalakum. Afallahu anha wallahu ghafurun halim. This is one verse which I've seen that we haven't really analyzed it in details so far, though Pervez Sahab has mentioned it in his various addresses. Now what it says is, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, that is, it is addressed to mu'mineen, la tasalu an ashiya in tubdalakum tasukum. Do not ask questions about those things which, if made clear to you, those will create problems for you. That is, they will slow down your life. So what is being revealed here is we know what is required to be revealed to you. وَإِن تَسْأَلُوا عَنْهَا حِينَ يُنَزَّلُ الْقُرْآنُ تُبْدَ لَكُمْ. That if you insist on asking questions, then these will be made clear to you while the Quran, yunazzalu Quran, when the Quran is being revealed. And these will be made plain to you. So what will happen is that these will create problems. Then if we read the verses next to it, it says that the people before you did ask these questions, and when these were revealed, they failed to follow them. So Quran gives us exactly the boundaries within which we can live an extremely happy life here, free from fear and huzn. Afallahu anha. This is beautifully Allah has covered here, that don't worry yourself if it is not given in the Quran, because then it is your initiative. You can make choice according to the time which you are living. Wallahu ghafurun halim. See over here, it has added ghafur, that is, the protection will be given. Halim means tolerance. There is allowance kept within all the values. And these two values are extremely important from this verse for the system of deen, in which there must be a lot of tolerance about the behavior of human beings, as long as we are within the permanent values. So the next one is, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَا تَأْتِينَا السَّاعَةُ قُلْ بَلَىٰ وَرَبِّي لَتَأْتِيَنَّكُمْ عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْزُبُ عَنْهُ مِثْقَالُ ذَرَّةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَلَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا أَصْغَرُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ وَلَا أَكْبَرُ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. So from the first verse over here, Surah Al-Ma'idah, we are clear that what was supposed to be revealed has been revealed. So there is no if and but here. It is absolutely clear that what is required as guidance for all times to come, it is there. And in this verse, Quran has made it clear that they say, never to us will come the hour. I will not go into the detail of that, but most surely, my Rabb, it will come upon you by him who knows the unseen. But important thing over here is the Quran says that whether it is a smaller thing or a bigger thing, it has been kept illa fi kitabun mubin, that you can check it, that there is nothing left out of this book. There are a number of verses on that. We can look at the classification of the Quran and you will find pages after pages of this. The next is, Ya Yuhan Nasu Qad Ja'akum Burhanun. See over here, Quran says that, O mankind, there has come to you something which is based on evidence. You can check it. And from Rabb, that is from the one who has created all these means of sustenance and growth and everything. وَأَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ نُورًا مُبِينًا. Exactly the same words, Mubina here, Kitabun Mubin here, Nurun, that is a light where you can remove your darkness and you can walk in the dark, in the light of Allah, in the light of the Quran. And it is very clear, perspicuous. So Quran is complete in all respects, and it must provide answers to all the questions arising in human sight. Now, next one is a book for you explained with details. Now, these previous verses, and we see to the next one. أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ أَبْتَغِي حَكَمًا وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْكِتَابَ مُفَصَّلًا. So it is all given in the book in detail. وَالَّذِينَ آتَيْنَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّهُ مُنَزَّلٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ بِالْحَقِّ. So the book, it has been sent from Allah, and those to whom this book is sent, they know it, that they full well know to whom we have given the book, that it has been sent down from your Rabb as Al-Haq. So Al-Haq, meaning of Al-Haq, we already know it. And over here, Ya'lamuna. See, it is based on knowledge, ilm. And the important point over here at the end, which I've highlighted, is فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْمُمْتَرِينَ. So in this particular issue, we should never ever have any doubts, any suspicion, anything which should tell us that maybe this is missed out. Maybe this is, if it is not given in the Quran, then we are not finding the answer to that or to guide us to that. That is why it is important to collectively discuss these things. And the next one is, وَلَقَدْ جِئْنَاهُمْ بِكِتَابٍ فَصَّلْنَاهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ هُدًى وَرَحْمَةً لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. That we have certainly sent unto them a book which is based on knowledge, ala ilmin. Again, knowledge has come over here, and kitabin fassalnahu. Hudan, it's a guidance, and rahmat. We know this is related to the aspects of nourishment and growth. Liqawmi yu'minun, who accept it, who use their knowledge, reasoning, and the mu'minin. Laqad anzalna alaykum kitaban fihi zikrukum afala taqilun. And over here the Quran has very clearly said that use your akal. Make maximum effort to go into it. Have all questions ready and ask it. Don't be afraid of asking questions, because the whole book is about you. And we know the meanings of dhikr as well, which means not only mention, but the details and all the answers which we're looking for our questions and our eminence. And the last one is Allazi khalaqal mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala wa huwal azizul ghafur. That maut, that is death and life, has been created. So it is a planned thing. It has not come through just evolution, that suddenly a human being has appeared with a choice and intent, and there is no purpose to this life, and we are concentrating on everything in the outer world without looking within us. So yabluwakum. See, if we look at the Quran, this point will come later as well. Kum, it is always addressed to our I, our consciousness. And it has been created with a purpose so that we do good deeds, balanced deeds. As Quran all along says that whatever we do, we are having an impact on our own self. Wahuwal Azizul Ghafur. So both Aziz and Ghafur comes into it, that this is how you will get power as well. Allah is Aziz and He is all protecting, but this is how we also get power, and this is how we also provide protection to others. And so this is the basis of the system of Deen. Now, over here, there are some fundamentals are noted. Nahnu qaddarna bainakumul mauta wa ma nahnu bimasbuqin. So that has been decreed. So the word used over here is qadar again. We all know it, that it relates to the scaling, to be your common lot. So it has been kept with a purpose. And whatever is happening, we are not to be frustrated. So it is not something that Allah cannot implement it. This is following certain laws. And these are immutable laws related to death. Allah an nubaddila amtalakum wa nunshiakum fi ma la ta'lamun. That Allah, over here Quran says that from changing your forms, that of course whatever you are doing in this life, it is in front of us and you know about it. But it will change into something new, creating you in that you know not at this stage. But it is important over here, the word uses mala ta'lamun. So it is again related to knowledge here. Quran has given some indications over here. If we remember, Hadrat Yaqub said, Inni alamu minallahi mala ta'lamun. That wahi, what it reveals to us, those things which others do not understand or cannot come to know. So it is our duty that we use our knowledge to find it out as much as possible. Yawma taral mu'minina wal mu'minate yasa nuruhum baina aydihim. So over here I included it that they are light. So light in front of us, which is the light of wahi, is making the paths clearer and clearer. So it is our effort that we multiply this light as much as possible. And then the verse ends, Zalika huwal fawzul azim. I'll not go into the details. It is worthwhile to have a look on this verse within Surah Hadid, before it and after it. Next verse is La tarkabunna tabakan an tabakin. So Quran makes it clear that you will not reach to a higher level without going through the stages, slowly, patiently. They will be frustrating at times. There will be challenges, but don't give up. Now, next is a few verses. Wazara balana matalan wa nasiya khalqahu qala min yujil izama wa yarmim. These are the verses. I've taken a few verses from Surah Yasin. Very interesting. Over here, Quran says in a I'll say third person, and he makes comparisons for us, that human beings do make comparisons, that they say that where is the proof for our hereafter? How am I going to get another life? And how my bones, and once I'm decomposed, I will get another life. The Quran has very beautifully stated over here, وَنَاسِيَ خَلْقَهُ, that he is concentrating on his body, whereas he should be concentrating on his eye, which is putting this question. So the I should have the answer within itself. And then it says, Koi kul yoyi hallazi anshaha awwala marratin wa huwa bi kulli khalqin alim. He should see he will give them life who created them for the first time. So there was nothing, and then we got created through a procedure, which is, we all know it, a biological procedure. And then he says he knows that how he's going to create the next one as well. And we will come to that later on. أَوَلَيْسَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِقَادِرٍ عَلَىٰ أَن يَخْلُقَ مِثْلَهُم. And beautifully Quran sums it up here, that if they look at the heavens and the earth, and don't they see that if he can create whole of that, then what is the problem of creating us who were created first time and cannot be created again? وَهُوَ الْخَلَّقُ الْعَلِيمُ. Again, same knowledge, and the creation is here. And then his next one, I included this from chapter 23, and we have talked about this verse previously. Over here, initially, Quran talks about the initial conception of conception within uterus, and then it goes through that. Summa khalaqna nutfata alaqatan fa khalaqna alaqata mudghatan fa khalaqna mudghata. And then it says izaman faksawnal izama lahm, that the bones are covered by the flesh within the uterus. So over here, izaman faksawnal izama lahman, that bones are forming of within the uterus of the fetus, and it is covered with flesh. And over here again, the person, whoever he or she is, asking this question, or a general question, that once we are bones and we become decomposed, how are we going to come back? And over here, Quran has pointed to this fact, Summan shanahu khalqan akhara, that then the man was given this ruhana, that energy, and because of that, he became a different creation. So he did not remain a body of just bones and flesh, but he got something different. And the next part of this verse says it all, فَتَبَارَكَ ahsanul khaliqeen, and within him had the potentials of standing up and growth, and infinite growth. Tabarakallahu ahsanul khaliqeen, and he is the best of the creator, best of the balanced forms of creation. So man is also becoming a creator here within this word and in its context. So if we relate this, so the answers are there. If people are not looking for that, then we have to point their attention towards that. Now let us look at some of the points, the question of human death. We exist in a physical universe in which there is an expiry date on everything, including stars and galaxies. However, new things keep on adding on a continuous basis. Now, this is something very interesting if we know from the science, and probably Mumtaz, he has already given some presentation on this aspect. So universe is expanding and new creations are coming in, and only Allah knows how many are disappearing as well at the same time. There are things in this world which get recycled. So within our world, we know there are a lot of sustainability built into it. So plants, these die down and new are born on a continuous basis. Same goes for the animals. And same goes for the human beings. On biological basis, human beings keep coming in through a process, but we have a choice and intent. The process of reproduction continues within the animal domain. Man also possesses an animal body, which also will die. And children are being born to replace the old on a continuous basis. Present high rate of growth is due to an increase in the age of survival. And this will even out in the future through education and lifestyle will also reduce the birth rate. If human beings did not have enough possessing metacognitive trait, then we would not be sharing this presentation. So over here, I have said that if we did not have the ability of thinking about thinking, then we will not be talking about the hereafter and the importance of our life. No self-consciousness, no inner reality, hence our death would not be of any concern. We are talking about this death. The fact is because we think about it. We have the ability of thinking about thinking, metacognitive ability. We are concerned that why do we die? Why death has been kept in this world? Why couldn't we continue indefinitely right in this life? Animals around us do not think about their death. Even if they do, we can never know about this. So it is important that the Quran puts a lot of emphasis on that. So we need to look into it. Same goes for the hereafter. Some of the questions which appear in our minds are related to our short physical existence and the uncertainty of what lies beyond our physical death. And I once heard Chris Evans, he's one of the DJ on Radio 2, once said on Radio 2 that it would have been nice if we had died first and then lived ever after. Not sure if I was looking for an answer or not. Maybe I should have sent him a letter. From the way this human life is and the explanations given in the Quran, we can relate the two and find a rationally acceptable explanation of the question of death. Up to this point, whatever we understand. Now, let us look at more verses. Man kana yurido harsal akhirate nazid lahu fi harsihi. Over here is very interesting. Over here, man kana yurido. So emphasis has been placed on us, that if we desire it. So the Quran makes it very clear, if you don't desire it, you will not get it. So first create a desire and then the motivation and then work on it. That if anyone desires the tilt of the hereafter, we give increase in his tilt. See, there is no constraint put over here, that if we are looking for the life of the hereafter, which includes later part of our life here as well, then the law will help us. Man kana yuridu harsad dunya nutehi minha. That if we desire only the good of this life or whatever we want in this life, then of course we will get it according to the environment in which we live. If we live in a capitalist system and have a lot of money, then obviously we will multiply and get more than the others. In fact, we will take out all money from the pockets of the poor. وَمَا فِي الْآخِرَاتِ مِن نَصِيبٍ. And then it says, but he has no share in the hereafter. If we did not desire the hereafter, there is no hereafter. That is simply coming out of this verse. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهْوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَيْلِ مُسَوَّمَاتِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ. A bit long verse. ذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حُسْنُ الْمَآبِ. I included this verse just to put a slightly different perspective on what we are discussing. That زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ. That the attraction has been kept in the eyes of mankind. So all the attractions which we look at in around our world has been kept in us deliberately. This is something which we need to always be very mindful of it, because if we are not mindful of it, then we cannot look at the evidence which Quran presents of the hereafter and all the things which human beings covet, and we see it all around us. In fact, the criteria for success in a world which assumes that there is no life beyond death is all these things here. And then it says, such are the convenience of this worldly life. That is, these are the things which can help us to get through this life. But if we accumulate more, still we will have to go through the same pattern of life. If I have more than my needs, still that spare things will be lying around, but I will only utilize what I need. Wallahu indahu husnul ma'ab. Over here, Allah has beautifully summed it up, that what is with Allah, that is what is in the Quran, Allah is telling us about this guidance and the life of the hereafter and the system of deen. That is something we should have as an aim. And then it says, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. So it summed up the mentality of us, the human beings, without the guidance, that we think it is all play and amusement. Lahun wala'ibun, in which no results we will get in the hereafter. So we will make a lot of effort. We will suffer in this world, but we will not get it in the hereafter. And this point will become very clear later on. وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَا هِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ. Over here, Quran says that if you do not desire of the hereafter, then you will not get this life. So you should remember that if you desire of the life of the hereafter, and that is what life is. Remember, we have discussed it before, that through Iman, we sow the seed of a new life within us. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. And we can find out if we acquire knowledge. See, words yalamun, wherever this comes, we should concentrate very intensely on those verses and see what knowledge we are required to find out here, how much research we require to do into these verses and the verses before and after, and see what Quran is trying to tell us. Now, to understand that, we need to know life. أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So over here, I was amazed by this verse, that how beautifully it fits on the state of most of the human beings in this world. That can he who was dead, so Quran over says the Maitan, the one who is dead has been given life. What is said over here is Avaman kana Maitan fa'ayanahu. The Quran says that, have you seen someone who was dead and he's been given life? Obviously, he or she has got Iman here. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي, and as a result got light in which it can walk around. But فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. And then we look around other people that who are in darkness and cannot come out of it, from which he can never come out. It is an individual, and it is applicable to the societies as well. Thus, to those who are kafir, their own deeds seem pleasing. This is important, that the problem with our desires is that these become attractive towards us, and we become lost into it, forgetting that we are going to die one day and we should think about it. Whereas moving away from that kind of a life, the life of kufr is a miserable life. It's full of stresses and depression and conflicts. So people, if we use our rational thinking, we can figure it out ourselves. لِيُنْذِرَ مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. Over here, Quran says that this is a book, this is a message for those, zikrukum, for those who wish to remain alive. So this is a warning for those who wish to remain alive, or who are alive. And they are the ones who will pick it up. وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. And of course, when Allah said that it is his responsibility to inform mankind that what happens if you live a life of kufr. And they should know it. Yaqulu ya laytani qaddamtu li hayati. And this is a beautiful expression of conclusion for someone who hasn't sent anything forward for his life, and then he or she finds it out that they have lost everything. And over here, Quran says, he will say, would that I had sent forward for my life, li hayati, my own life. And this point will become clearer once we come to the later part of this presentation. Over here, I have drawn a small schematic just to illustrate what we have discussed so far, that there is a man-made world which is going like this. What I've done is I've slightly lowered down these arrows so that to indicate that man is always in a state of loss. Because if we keep hereafter in front and its successes, then we are losing time. And in that time, if we were guided and come to the guidance of the Quran, how much benefit we would have got in this life. And that human beings get replaced in 80 to 100 years. We should look around. In 100 years, none of us will be around. And survival is for all in the hereafter. This point will become clearer later on. And the average human span of life is 80 years. And we have discussed this, that if we take out the first 30 years and the last about 10 years or 5 years where we suffer a lot of illnesses or maybe go down not very well, we have a limited time. And in that limited time, are we getting maximum out of it? And the Quran wants us to get maximum out of it. And how does it do it? That if we follow the Quranic guidance, then at some point in time, we join this path. And this could be anywhere till the time we leave this life. And what happens is that the life of the hereafter then continues. And over here, I've said, depending upon the strength of the self, the system of deen may start to take shape. So this is one point. That is why I had drawn this schematic, that it could happen at any point in time. It could be around the corner. We may not know it. Our job is to keep making effort as much as possible. If we see the Fatah Makkah, where the conquering of Mecca took place, it took in a very short period of time towards the end of the Islamic system, which was established at that time. So our effort is to make as much effort as possible. Now, next, I have drawn this, that is immortality in the next life forever, i.e. never to end. Now, this question was asked in one of our question answer sessions previously. So I've gone into its details. The Quran has used the words khalood, remains unchanged, where if we go into a state, it will not change. Abada, a very long time. Muqim, where something gets established. For the life of the hereafter in relation to mu'mineen as well as others. We will confine ourselves to mu'mineen here. So we will not discuss the other side of, that is the antonym of mu'mineen. The state of the self will decide the fate in the hereafter. A developed self follows a certain well-defined path by the Quran. If it has followed that path, i.e. Iman and Amal Saleh, then it has acquired that self which should know its state of development using the Quranic criteria in this life. The Quran has declared that this is that Jannat which is earned through one's own deeds. No one can take it away. It becomes part of ourself, just as the education we acquire becomes part of ourself. We can never pass this ability on to anyone else. So this is important. We have discussed it before as well, that whatever we become in life through our experiences, education, and through our training, nobody can take it away from us as far as this life is concerned. My education, my training, my experiences are mine. But the same situation is in the hereafter, that whatever we have become here, it cannot be taken away because we have become that. That is what we are. If we say that immortality is not forever in one verse and it is forever in another verse, then there will be a contradiction in the Quran, which is not true. So this is very important for us to understand, that if one verse we conclude that it is forever, and in the second verse we say, oh no, there are doubts. Remember Mumtareen, the Quran has forbidden us to think like that. And once the Quran says there's no contradiction in it, and secondly, why shouldn't we want immortality? And immortality is the most beautiful thing which Allah is going to give us. And He has built it into our self. That if our self works on those lines which the Quran says that if you work, you will get it, why shouldn't He let it continue forever? I don't know why we become doubtful and suspicious about it. I'm sure we all want it. Depending upon, however, for the human mind to conceive of a duration without time is impossible to grasp in this life. Yes, that is difficult, but at least accept it beautifully and joyfully. Depending upon what kind of brain is made available, this issue will become resolved later on. As noted in some verses, that the mu'mineen will get what they wish. So if we look at it, if I want immortality and I've worked for it and I've achieved that status of myself reaching that stage, then immortality as a right comes to me. So whole universe has been created for this purpose. So we shouldn't be in any suspicion or doubt about it. And there is more to it. Immortality will be part of this wish. Now let us look at some few more verses from this point. There is a verse in the Quran, 39 chapter 42 verse, which is about sleep. And it's a fascinating verse. In fact, there is another verse, 660. It's worth looking at that as well. It's a fascinating verse which reveals a number of things and which I would like to share with all of you. Over here, Quran says, Allahu yatawaffil anfusa hina mawtiha. That it is Allah that takes selves at death. That this is the fact that when the death comes, our self is taken away and it has been given, it dies. Wallati lam tamut fi manamiha. And the same is the situation. So there is an example or a simile here, that those who die not during their sleep. So death has been compared to our sleep, because brain becomes inactive. In death as well, brain becomes inactive. So what Quran says is that when we are in sleep, our consciousness is taken away, which is similar to death. Those on whom He passed the decree of death, and it is very beautifully explained that those on which, that if they haven't died, then in those cases, the consciousness is kept back, and the other cases, consciousness is sent back. So essentially, when we are sleeping every night, we are experiencing death. But the rest is sent for a term appointed. Verily, in this are signs for those who reflect. Beautifully summed up, La ayatil liqawmin yatafakkarun. Now, what I've done over here is I've drawn the schematic based on my understanding here, and I hope I could explain it for the benefit of everyone. Now, I and consciousness we possess. This presentation which I'm making to you is at the level of my I and consciousness. And it is interacting with my brain and body, and brain and body need sleep. So please keep it in mind that brain and body need sleep. I and consciousness is connected with it. So when brain and body is sleeping, I and consciousness becomes suspended, inactive. It doesn't die because brain and body hasn't died yet. It is not going to die in any case, even if brain and body dies. Now the next is aging is taking place through brain and body. So we know when 2 weeks ago, I had a different age of my brain and body, and now I'm older by 2 weeks. There's no inbuilt aging in I and consciousness, and we can check it. We remain ageless at any point in time. If we look into it, we will still feel as young as we used to be. Next is I and consciousness is suspended when we go to sleep. So what happens is that this is the time which is passing process of aging. And what happens is that the brain and body go to sleep, inbuilt aging process, body is clicking. Now, this is very important that this time clock, we should keep it in mind that body and brain is aging. But I and consciousness is suspended here. It has gone to sleep or it is dead, and there is no connection between I and consciousness. So just remember this part here and this part here. Let's go to the next one. There's no inbuilt aging in I and consciousness, as I said earlier. Aging is taking place here. Right? Now, I and consciousness back into action after sleep. So what happened is that body and brain have come back after sleep in the morning. So I and consciousness has got its body and brain back, through which it is going to now start displaying itself, becoming old and heading towards death. So if we put here back into action after death in the hereafter, the things will become very clear. So there is no death here. Physical death is here. So there is no, it is not going to go into the hereafter, this body. So new brain and body, if is given to this I and consciousness, then this I and consciousness becomes effective in the hereafter. This point will become later clearer. So I hope this explains this aspect of the link between our sleep and our I and consciousness. Now, about immortality, which I said earlier, that immortality is by right becomes ours if we follow the path of self-development, that is Iman and Amal Saleh, as given in the Quran. Jazahum inda rabbihim jannatu adnin tajri min tahtiha al-anharu khalidina fiha abada. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu zalika liman khashiya rabbahu. See over here that this is the reward from their Rabb. And then Quran gives this simile that it is where Jannat, where rivers are flowing or streams are flowing underneath. Khalidina fiha abada. So both are said over here that they will stay there forever and ever. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu, because they did what the guidance told them. And they were huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum, and they were doing it in the presence of Allah all the time. Zalika liman khashiya rabbahu, and all this is because they were muttaqeen. If you remember the pitfalls, we avoid all the pitfalls of life. We are not attracted by the wrong paths of life which others are following. Again, the same one, that who are making these efforts, they will be living there forever. And those who are blessed shall be in the Jannah. They will dwell therein. Ma damate samawatu wal ardu. So from here, Some people can take this clue as if it will be only heaven and earth, and since heaven and earth will end one day, so our existence will also end. That is those who have mu'mineen, who have become mu'mineen, and they are on the higher path of creative activity. Illa ma sha rabbuka. Now over here it is Mashiach. It is all according to Allah's laws. And the word Rabb has come here because wherever development of ourself comes, Rabb will appear here. Ataan ghaira majzuzin, and it is a gift which is unceasing. Ghairu mamnoon, Quran has also noted this. So we should keep it in mind that if we say that in one place it is immortality forever, in another place, no, it is related to this and that, then we are contradicting the Quran. Next is Udkhuluha bisalamin. Beautifully over here, Salam says it all, that they will come into an integrated form. Yawmul Khulud, that this is the day of eternal life. Lahum yasha'una fiha wala daina mazid. Quran wouldn't have said this, that they will get whatever they wished. And I took out some of the verses on wishes. We will deal with it at some other point, that within the Quran, how should we create our new wishes? Those are totally different wishes and desires from what we see in a man-made world. Wala daina mazid, of course, they require more as well. So there is no reason to say that our life will end at some point in the hereafter if we are on that path of nourishment, development, and participating in the further creation of Allah. Now, this is the verse schematic which I've drawn for evidence for the hereafter. Our eye wishes to know this, hence it is within our eye. Two paths, one path provides evidence. And this is something which we need to question it. First is the Quran defines the basic human creation and its issues. For example, chaos, divisions, conflicts, fear, grief at collective level. Individual basic traits are also given. For example, selfish, niggardly, impatient, unjust, jealous, impulsive. We have seen this previously in our presentations on Law of Requital, that human beings have certain default negativities inbuilt in them, certain weaknesses and limitations. They want quick results. They're impatient. They're selfish. They're greedy. They hoard things. They exploit others. They even destroy others. So these are the basic positions in which human beings are, and we can see plenty of it around us. Recent Palestinian event tells it all. Man-made path is this one. Most mankind follows path of desires achieved via intellect, no guidance from Wahi. Few among them look for guidance and find it in the Quran. Gradually, this gains strength. And time is passing. Remember that 80 to 100 years of our life in this world. Now, there are two paths, path one and path two. And path two is the non-Quranic path. Path one is the path which is the Quranic path, or the path of guidance. Makes things clear, permanent values and divine attributes help to create a new self based on Iman, plus solid deeds. Hereafter is included, inbuilt into it. So anyone following the Quran cannot forget about the hereafter. It is built into it. Non-Quranic path leads to continuing with a self which does not take into account the hereafter. So there is no question of a hereafter here. We see it all around us. In a non-Quranic self continues its journey through the physical self, thinking life ends with death. Remember, Allah said, those who desire. So this self doesn't want it. This self does not want a life in the hereafter, and it lives a life as if life will end with death. And then is human physical death ends phase one. But in the other case, we will see that slowly and gradually this self achieves the assurance of the hereafter. If you remember in Surah Baqarah, right at the beginning, Quran says, وَبِالْآخِرَاتِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. It starts from muttaqi, and then it goes through those who keep their possessions open for the use of others. And it says they have iman in what is sent before it and what is sent within the Quran. This serves as an evidence of the hereafter verified from the Quran. So Iman and Amal Saleh is inbuilt possession of the assurance of the hereafter. So it has to be tasted. Those who are looking for evidence of the hereafter, they have to follow this path first. They have to create a life within them, and they can then know that what hereafter is and how the assurance comes within them. And then as developed self crosses over to phase 2 with assurance. And this point will become clearer once we come to the later part. Now, over here, what I've done is I have related to an example in this life. This is an evidence-based model in this life. There is an organization which needs research scientists. Let's assume we see organizations around us, big and small, to do research and do some creative work, for example, for businesses, manufacturing sector. Only I with qualification will make it. So this particular organization is looking for people of certain education, training, and experience. Their I is of a certain level of understanding. And it has a CEO as well. So CEO is interacting with this organization. So what happens is that if people do not possess that I, which is required by this organization, even if they have a body, they might have a beautiful body, doesn't matter. If their I is not qualified according to this requirement, they will not get the job and all these paths will be blocked. And we experience it every day. And nobody over here is going to complain that why did this organization not select me? You know, just an ignorant fellow from a rural background, if you bring him over here and ask this organization to employ him, that organization will never employ, rather will laugh at you, that we don't employ ignorant people. And then there's a lot of these people, they cannot get into this organization because they do not have that I, that personality, that self, which can meet their requirement. Only one will meet it, even he or she will have exactly the same body as all of these have. So from here, we can see that in our own world, we see this example every day, and that the organizations will never employ people who do not, whose experiences and training does not meet the requirements of their organization. Because this CEO has to get work done here. He has created this organization to go forward, not to stay static and stay at its own place. So only I, meeting the criterion of the life of the hereafter, will benefit from the new body. And we never question it. We don't seem to question it. Now let's look at the next one. Now the next model is using exactly the same analogy. Now we'll look at it, the next one. The environment of the life of the hereafter is based on the Quranic value system. Human I has to meet the criteria laid down by the Quran to benefit from this second stage. So Allah has laid down certain criteria in the Quran that in my hereafter, that is in your hereafter and the hereafter I have created for you, has certain requirement. And for that, I need a certain kinds of I. And the procedure for getting that I has been given in the Quran. So let us exactly the same one here. So in this case, what will happen is that the body will remain behind and I will go forward. And over here, we certainly start questioning that why can't Allah forgive us? Why can't Allah just make us enter into his heaven, without doing much? Whereas he has explained in the Quran in detail. And not only that, in our worldly life, whoever presents the Quranic message, we oppose it. We try to resist it. We do not have a desire for that. And suddenly, we want that CEO of the world to get us into his organization without any qualification. Now, this is unfair, injustice. And same goes for this. So the body will remain behind. Allah will give us another body. We'll come to that. And that's it. The I meeting this requirement, this one will have the pleasure of participating in that organization, which Allah has created specifically and in detail explained in the Quran. In detail, every question answered. Only I meeting the criterion of the life of the hereafter will benefit from the new body. So new body, we will see that this new body for the life in the hereafter, everyone will get, but they will not have the I. Remember in the example of the CEO, the body everyone had, but they did not have the I. So now let us look at what is given in the Quran. What do we know about the life of the hereafter? First is we are not going to return to this life as the only route is via procreation. I've given some verses here. We cannot share ourselves with anyone. It is indivisible and cannot procreate. There is no gender differentiation at the level of the self, no procreation required. So There will be no male and female and that kind of a thing over there. These things are biological and physical. And thankfully, we will not have these over there. We don't want this brain to go with us over there and start going through the same problems. Our self needs a medium to manifest itself, which is in the form of our brain in this life. And so we will need another medium for ourselves in the life of the hereafter. This new brain cannot be like our brain in this life, as this dies, whereas the brain of the hereafter will not die. There is no further death in the hereafter, thankfully. We will keep the attributes of choice and intent, as these are inbuilt within ourselves. So choice and intent will stay with us. This also means that if we have a Quranic self, then we will be able to make choices within the permanent values which we would have got used to in this life prior to our arrival there. So we will not be unfamiliar to the environment of the hereafter, because the same permanent values will apply there as well. We will have whatever we keep desiring, and there will be more offered and available. So as we grow on this Sirat al-Mustaqim, we should keep it in mind that we want this path never to end. Why should I want this path to end? It should never end, because Allah is keep creating, and we would like to know what He's creating and participate in that creation. So this is a supreme type of a desire. And then we will be, of course, in the company of all those mu'mineen who have gone before us and those who are going to join us later on. We will be in the company of mu'mineen, including those who have gone before us and all those who will be joining us later. This will be part of building up our desire right from this life forward, i.e. the Iman and of the Quran makes us desire the company of mu'mineen right in this world. Do you remember we shared a verse from Hazrat Yusuf, from Surah Yusuf, where he says that, oh Allah, keep me in the company of Salihin. No differences, as we all accept the guidance of the Quran with the conviction of our heart and mind. And the next one is the limitations associated with our physical brain here in this life will not be present in our new brain in the hereafter. The Quran has noted this fact in a few verses. That is, there will be no negative emotions. If you remember, the Quran says that they will not have any reservations, any prejudices, any jealousies towards others. And in any case, they will be all mu'mineen. All these things will be removed right here in this life. We can grow out of these in this life too, needed for the establishment of deen. Deen we cannot establish unless all those who come together have no differences. The Quran is very clearly stated. In the life of Jannah, that is the Sirat al-Mustaqim, we do not know if there is an end to the human self-development. Do we want one? This is the question, because our desires will be fulfilled. If we tell Allah at some stage, now I'm fed up with this highly developed self, I want to now relax, and Allah will say, that is fine. That is the corner, you go and sit over there, the rest can go forward. The help of the Malaika will also be available in the creative setup of the next life. This creative process may be physical as well as non-physical in relation to our understanding from this life. So we don't know at this stage, but Malaika's help will be available. Mu'mineen will be part of the system of deen which they made efforts to establish in this life. We should always keep it in mind that the Quran, Malik Yawmiddin, where it says Malik Yawmiddin, it says that He is Elahu Samai wal Ardi, that means that He wants us to establish deen in this life, and then obviously after, in the hereafter, there will be system of deen. If it is established here, then their next life will be a continuation of the same. However, if for some reason this could not be established, then this being their strong desire in this life, it is bound to be fulfilled in the next life. So I think this point is pretty clear that we should strongly desire for the system of deen. This will rise in the system of deen of the hereafter, where there will be no subjugation and there will be a freedom to make choices. What a beautiful thought one can have. Mu'mineen will have nothing to do with non-Quranic selves in the hereafter, as they had started to be different at self's level even in this worldly life. We can see all those who are creating problems around us, and that is not an acceptable state of affairs in this world. They knew based on evidence that these people did not wish Quranic guidance and turned this world into hell for everyone. Self-explanatory. The power over there will be directly with Allah, possibly, or through mu'mineen who are already there. So deen needs power, Aziz and Hakim. Now, next point is all the permanent values of the Quran will continue to be applicable over there because these are immutable laws. We will continue to manifest our acquired divine attributes over there as these have become part of ourself here. The environment of deen over there will need it, its application. So our effort should be to learn as many attributes of Allah as possible in this life, which are within the human limits, and then also desire that these should continue with us. We may not have the sense of time over there. There's no need for time. Time is for the body. On a Sirat-e-Mustaqim, we don't need time. The expanse of the next life will be far more extensive than the space and time limits of this world. And the Quran has drawn our attention to that. There are a few more verses on that. We will never lose our individuality as a self. Why should I? We should keep that identity because that is the pleasure of it. We will know where we were and where we are heading. Our I goes forward. All that is my and mine remains behind. Something we should keep reminding ourselves. Deeper attachments make it hard to grasp the significance of the hereafter. We should very clearly, as the Quran says, Mata'ul Hayat Dunya, that this mata aspect, we should keep it in mind, not hold on to these things which make difficult for us to leave this life when the death comes. The appearance into the next life will follow a certain process, like our physical birth procedure, which we do not know yet. However, the Quran has used the example of a seed and its growth as we commonly witness in this world. The Quran has indicated that Allah's everything has a procedure. So there will be some procedure followed through which we will gain our self-consciousness back. There is indication in the Quran that there is a duration of time before the human self gets awakened in the hereafter. In any case, this is like a state of sleep where our consciousness becomes suspended. This point is beautifully covered by Allama Pervez in the book Jahan-e-Farda, The Life in the Hereafter, What Does the Quran Say? And there are a lot of details over there, so I did not want to prolong this presentation. The Quran has not discouraged us from thinking about the possibilities of the hereafter and to gain knowledge, and has repeatedly invited us to ponder on the Quran as profoundly as possible. We should never stop delving into the Quran with a view to look for answers to the questions arising in our consciousness. The Quran is supposed to provide answers. We can say that this is what Allah wants us to know. However, this should never slow us down or stop us from making efforts in the direction of deen. Maybe we will find many of these questions answered under the system of deen when more mu'mineen, their eyes join us. The Quran has metaphorically related the paradise of the hereafter with physical examples from this physical world. We already know about this. I haven't gone into those details. Now, next is how to remain creative till the end of our life. This point came to me because there was one of our members from Manchester. He passed away. He went to the next life a few years back. And we had some discussion on that. And I found that it is important that we should know about these things because all of us have to leave this life at some point in time. And over here, first is assuming our cognitive abilities are still functioning, we can do a lot until the last day on this planet. We should think ahead and be creative. This is part of our self-development. So we should think hard that instead of counting days up to our death, we should be creative. We should be productive. For example, sharing these talks is part of that process as well. If we can afford it, we should acquire a smartphone and learn to use it at a basic level. It is a very good resource for information and watching very stimulating video clips. Human knowledge has expanded a lot, even in the physical domain. So we should have some decent smartphone if we can afford it. And we can get some basic training as well. I'm just saying that those who haven't. Some of our members still do not have these smartphones, and so they are unable to even join this our seminar group. Reading stimulating books and noting down salient points from these books. These books are absolutely wonderful. Some of these books on psychology, like Eric Fromm and Jung, and even Jordan Peterson, who is a recent guy. So in the light of the law of requital and what we have discussed today and other permanent values, we can find out at least up to what point the human thought has reached. And this stimulates our mind. It makes us think. And there is also series Closer to Truth. We should watch those series on YouTube. Sometimes there are very interesting points discussed over there. Of course, they are all discussed with the belief that the life ends with death. Be a part of good groups where exchange information in any aspect of interest takes place. If not fond of writing, then start writing down your thoughts and points picked up from various books and video clips. It helps. I also use notebook and paper to write down my thoughts at any point in time. And we may not use them at any point in time, but at least we are giving some kind of a shape, some kind of a form to our thoughts. Remain part of the True Islam groups and participate intellectually as well as possible. In these groups, sometimes we all have witnessed that things diverge. So it is our duty to guide people back on it, because that helps to develop our own thinking as well as help others. So it comes under, I'll not say forbid evil and promote good, but it helps us to guide others. Watavaso bilhaqqi, watavaso bisabr, it comes more in that. Create some regular physical activity like walking, exercises, light sports, reading in a park. Do cooking. It is very creative, and YouTube can help to create your own dishes. This is a fascinating way of trying creation that use different levels of heat, different spices, and you can come up with very interesting dishes. And if you're not already doing it, since I'm doing it, so I do try. Sociability, have some friends of similar ideology, but avoid negative conversation as much as possible. This will need some efforts, otherwise one can become very negative, which is not good for mental health. We should avoid negativity. Even in the case of like Palestinian bombing, it can create a very emotively stressful environment for us. We should look at it from the Quran's point of view, and you will see that immediately calmness will come on us, and we will find an answer. That this world which we have created, this is bound to happen, and it is all through human hands. Make a list of True Islam friends and try phoning them on a regular basis. Select a topic of interest and exchange views on it. Even some political news can be interesting, but not to dwell on it too long. Don't become part of these negative political conversations and dialogues going on. Watch them as a like somebody witnessing a football match without being emotively involved into it. When reminiscing about the past, always bring forward your good deeds, as it helps to remain positive. At times it will happen that one may think that I haven't done a lot of good, and we have reached a very close to our departing point from this life. Always bring in mind all the best we have done in our past life, and then look at the circumstances under which we have operated. We work under a lot of limitations. We are in a non-Quranic environment. There will be family members who will be opposing us, who will be resisting us. There will be friends and others who will be discouraging us. There will be negative emotions flying around us. And of course, the whole non-Quranic man-made system is a big, big resistance. And in all those circumstances, we should look at it that what best I could do, have I done it? So that is the thing, something which should keep it in mind, and bring back the best which we have done in our past life. And that will give us some kind of contentment and satisfaction. If there is still a possibility of doing some solid deeds, continue doing these as much as possible. Get own family involved, if not already involved. Keep giving them message, even if they are not listening, in some ways, directly or indirectly. I'll give you an example. This morning, my daughter said, we are only 3 in the house. And I said, you're forgetting the 4th one. And she said, whom? I said, Allah. And so this made the environment a bit more cheerful as well. And of course, we made them realize that there is someone always present with us. So we are never alone. Start writing your own autobiography. For example, non-Quranic part and then the Quranic part. Doesn't matter, nobody is going to read it. But at least it will stimulate our mind. We'll bring the memories back. We will also realize what we were and what we are becoming now. Never ever think or mention any errors of the past about your own selves or spouses or children. This is very important. I've seen people becoming very bitter towards the end of their life. A moment who is following the Quran is never ever becomes bitter. Our hereafter must be better than our earlier life. So we should never ever make an effort never to say anything negative towards the later part of our life. Even previously, if there is something instructive, we can share with our family, but never ever be negative. Never. You did this and he did this. I wish I had done this. I wish I have another way of living it. Never ever let it cross our mind. Our brain should be, our mind should be totally free from all nonsense of the path which we followed before following the Quran. Remember to leave behind a very positive effect of our lives. Allah has given us guidance and we should appreciate this aspect and remain positive. Never be hopeless of Allah's rahmat. See, the example of Hazrat Yaqub, which is we went through some of his verses. What he says is that I'm never hopeless, Ruullah, I'm never hopeless. And he remained positive all along, whereas his sons were all the time telling him that Yusuf is gone because in their mind they had got rid of him. Any fearful thought about death, counter it with the best salih deed we have done. Think of Allah's presence. We are with him before physical death, and he will still be there in the next life. I've seen religious people saying, oh, I'm going towards Allah and I'm scared of it. We are with Allah. It's not a question of that we are going to Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. We don't have to read that. We know about it. So we are in his presence all the time. Using the Quranic criterion, we can know a lot about our own self. No need to share with anyone. So we don't have to go and project ourselves. Look what I have achieved. No, it is an internalized thing. Keep it internalized. But use the Quranic criteria and do as much good possible and have as many good thoughts as possible within the Quran, even if there is a lot of opposition around us. Never ever let it affect our inner self. The beauty of inner self is that it is completely in our knowledge. Nobody knows about it. Keep passing the message of the Quran within our circle of influence tactfully and using wisdom. Opportunities do keep arising in human social interaction. People do take notice of it even if they ignore it. People do. I've seen it, people coming back to it after a few years. So we should, and in any case, when we pass on the message, it strengthens ourselves in the message, in the guidance. And Allah is watching us. He's a witness that this, my servant is Ibadi, is making his best. At the level of our eye, we should live life as if the system of deen will shape up any time. Why not? It will, because I will enter the system of deen after my physical departure. So, and keep these points about the life of the hereafter in mind. After Iman and Saleh deeds, we are living our life in the hereafter. In fact, if we look at it more closely, Quran says, وَالْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ, that every self should see what it is sending for tomorrow. So what I'm doing good today, tomorrow I will enter into the goodness domain of that deed. So we should live as if we are in the hereafter, but not satisfied that until the system of deen gets established. So all these things we should keep it in mind. I thought some of these points I should share with all of you. And I have seen it that we will be faced with this at some point in time. And in conclusions, according to the Quran, the life in the hereafter is part of the reason for the creation of man in the universe. The human self, nafs, possesses the attributes of choice and intent, and the Quran provides all the guidance to create a new self in this world. It is an option made available to each one of us, and its choice is left to us. The Quran has provided a number of clues to the life of the hereafter, which we can understand after we develop ourselves to a higher level of understanding. There may be more to it, the understanding of which may become available to us as the expanse of our consciousness expands in the light of the Quranic guidance. I'm sure this is not the last presentation to share. There will be more on it, inshallah. The higher our understanding becomes about Iman in the hereafter, the better our self becomes in terms of the establishment of the system of deen. This will help to share this evidence of the existence of the hereafter within our psyche with others across the world. This will help provide incentive and motivation to come to the Quran with a view to alleviate ourselves from the suffering caused by the man-made systems. So we should always keep it in mind that aim is to establish deen. Aim is that I should become eligible for Allah's help if I develop myself to that level. The human life in this world is meant to be fully free from any kind of fear and huzn. We should keep it in mind that this fear and huzn is not meant to be there. This life is not a punishment. It's a punishment because there are no mu'minin. Free from all mutual conflicts, or at least aware of the fact that our life on this planet can be made far better than the one we are presently experiencing. And in these conclusions, I thank you everyone for listening to this presentation.